everyone. My name is Doina Onchal and I'm the founder of VOLUTION. Today we are hosting the STEMMing Up Speaker Series, and I'm very excited to be talking about scholarships. It's a topic that is very hot and everybody wants to know. And at VOLUTION, we focus on bringing more young women into STEM. And this is why we find that scholarships has been a topic that has been very interesting and very sought after by our students. We have today Scholarships Canada and Yconic that are going to talk to you about scholarships. So I am going to give the virtual mic to Logan, and he's going to introduce himself. And then after that, we're going to have Amanda, and she's going to introduce herself and talk about scholarships at Yconic. And please do feel free to leave your comments on chat. We will answer as we go as much as possible, but also we are going to have a Q&A session. So I'm very excited for this. So let's just get this party started. Logan, take it away.
Thanks very much, Doina. Hello, everybody. Thanks very much for having me out. It's great to meet you, as it were. My name is Logan. I'm with ScholarshipsCanada.com. About myself, I got a technical diploma from Niagara College, worked in film for a few years, went back to school to U of T and studied languages there because I wanted to work with words. So I don't have much in the way of a STEM education exactly, but I do have a lot of education. So I can certainly speak to paying for school. So yeah, looking forward to talking a bit about the site, best practices, and addressing your questions as well. So please hit us. If you've got Q's, we've got A's. So very good. Thanks for having us. That's me. Doina, after you.
Yeah, you can go ahead with your presentation, Logan, and then we're going to have Amanda going after. Yes, just continue. Thank you.
Sure thing. Great. So scholarshipscanada.com is the outfit that I'm with, but we're going to talk more broadly today about finding and applying for scholarships. Some of the most important advice and sort of best practices we give to students. If you're in the sort of grade 10, 11, even into grade 12, there's a lot you can do to set yourself up for success when you start looking at post-secondary. So now's a great opportunity to start building yourself. So let's jump in. ScholarshipsCanada.com, if I can move. Hey, there's me. I talked about this. Yeah, so I know a thing or two about tuition fees. We all on the call probably recognize the value of post-secondary education. StatsCan says bachelor's degree, you might earn $1 million more over the course of your career, master's degree, even more. You're going to spend a lot more too. But it's more than just money. We find that grads of higher ed are typically more engaged with their community and have healthier habits, even more environmentally conscious, right? It's about building good citizenship. And that's something a strong thread we'll sort of see throughout when it comes to preparing for scholarships. So how are you going to pay for everything? Well, savings and work. If you're lucky, right, you have a decent paying job, you're going to put some money aside. If you're really lucky, your parents might have a chunk of coin for you in the bank. Many are not so fortunate. Then we're talking loans, right? This is money you have to pay back, interest fees to banks or governments. And finally, we're talking scholarships and bursaries. This is what you really want, right? This is money you do not have to pay back. It comes to you, you put it into your education, you invest in yourself. So, $1,000, right? Doesn't sound like so much when we're talking tuition fees, but that could be your textbooks for a year, right? Your bus pass if you're going to school in person still, or again, your phone bill, your entertainment, right? That $1,000 can get gobbled up pretty quickly. We're going to quickly go through a few scholarship myths. These are misconceptions students often have. Don't have the marks, right? A lot of awards actually don't ask about your grades at all. Some of them do, of course, but many do not. So if you're not a straight A student, don't despair. Too much competition. Depends on the award. We'll talk a little bit about this as well. Smaller awards typically have less competition. And as you can see here, more than half of the admins that we're in touch with want more applications, right? And a small percentage get no applicants at all. So you might win just by default. Only schools give scholarships? Of course not. Organizations, corporations, trade unions, your religious affiliations. Lots of different outfits will offer scholarships, and we'll talk about how to find them. Not in financial need. Chances are you are. I mean, short answer, right? If you're in financial need, if you don't have $40,000, $50,000 to pay for school in one drop, you probably have some financial need. Even then, only a third or so of the scholarships that we list even mention it. And finally, deadlines only in the spring, definitely not true. You can and should be applying throughout the year. We'll touch on a couple of awards, even that are closing very soon. Stuff to keep an eye out, right? That roll all throughout the year. So short answer, right? There's an award for you. You have to do some digging. You want to disabuse yourself of some of these misconceptions, but chances are you'll find something. So here's a quick browse of a few awards that we've picked out from our site. Retail education, this is all about retail experience. So if you've ever stocked a shelf, sold a shoe, chances are you're going to be eligible for this award, right? $1,000, 20 of them, short essay, easy. This one is renewable, right? Which means if you qualify for an award, you'll actually receive it year after year. So you receive the award in your first year, you actually continue getting money in year 2, year 3, year 4. This particular award's for Canadians going abroad, right? But the renewable thing is quite handy. Here's a big one that's closing in about 5 days. The TD Scholarships for Community Leadership. These are worth $70,000 over 4 years. Again, the renewable thing, right? Decent grades, 75%. It's high, but it's not unachievable. And it's open to students in your final year of high school, right? So this is a pretty big award, right? We're talking a lot of competition, but the main criteria is community leadership, right? Leadership, engagement in your school or neighborhood, your community. And that's a major thread we're gonna see again and again. Engaging with your community, volunteer, leadership, these are the things that admins are looking for. So where do you start, right? I know we're a sort of STEM crowd here, so you're thinking about your field of study, right? Your science tech. There's a lot of subfields within that, so the deeper in you get, the more specific. You may find awards that are really tailored to you, or you may be looking for stuff on the broader STEM umbrella level. Your study, of course, if you're just heading into college, university, you're looking for entrance awards. These are typically the most numerous, meaning they're awards for students who are just out of high school, starting their first college or uni, and schools are trying to encourage you, right? Pick us. The trick is, once you get your entrance scholarship, year 2, 3, 4 start getting more difficult to find. So if you can get those renewable awards, all the better. Activities, so this I've hinted already. Lots of activities will qualify you for scholarships. Sports is a big one, especially in the States, right? We hear a lot in movies, at least, about the sort of full ride football scholarship. This is less common in Canada. It does happen sometimes, but less common. More here, I find the admins are generally looking at the leadership bit, the community involvement bit, the volunteer experience. And it's not so much the number of volunteer hours, right? Here in Ontario, to graduate high school, we often think of you need your 40 hours. But scholarship admins are looking specifically for the quality of your experience. What have you learned? How has your engagement with your community changed you, right? And what have you given to others of yourself? So we're talking lessons learned, quality of connection, right? How engaged were you? And these sorts of things really come through. So don't think so much about how many hours do I need. Think about what kind of change can I make outside and inside myself too. It's very metaphysical. Academic average, that's pretty straightforward, right? Your grades. A few other factors to consider, a little bit less obvious. Heritage, we're seeing more and more awards for like equity-seeking groups. Indigenous is a big one here in Canada. Other heritage groups as well. So if you belong to one, odds are good you may find a scholarship that is sort of geared towards folks like you. And affiliation, sort of like activities. This is more like the people you surround yourself with. Companies, religious groups, unions. For instance, when I was growing up, my dad worked at Coca-Cola. And so Coke themselves offered a scholarship to students who are like children of employees, right? So the company offered an award, and so did the union. It was a union workplace, and the union also offered awards, right? So think about who you know in your life, where they work, who they're associated with. Odds are a lot of different corporations are going to offer scholarships, unions, and so on. If you work for Loblaws, for instance, they got a lot of grocery stores. They have awards for employees. Personal circumstance, a lot more specific, right? Here we're talking, circumstance, really. Are you a single parent, product of the foster child system, perhaps, suffered trauma of some kind? Lots of different types there. LGBTQ as well, if you identify with that community. There are awards specifically targeted for people in those circumstances. Financial need, pretty straightforward. Chances are you need the coin. And location, not only where you're going to school, but also where you live, where you grew up. We'll see awards from small towns in BC and southwestern Ontario, right? Who are, hey, if you grew up in the Chatham-Kent area, you may be eligible, right? That's all it takes. So think about where you came from too. So it's a lot to consider. We do our best on Scholarships Canada to let the tech do the talking with our little GetMatched tech here. Basically, you sign up like a social media, just fill out your info. If you've ever signed up for Instagram, you know what you're in for, and you get a list of matching schools, right? So this is from last year. Several awards with deadlines cascading, and the value and sort of what to expect. You can click through to get more details on any of these. We also encourage you to sign up for deadline alerts. This is a monthly email. If you're not on the site all that often, you'll get this email once a month that tells you, hey, so-and-so award, MLD, Canadian third year, IUBH, they're all closing soon, right? And you might qualify, so check it out. We've also got newsletters and so on, but if nothing else, the deadline alerts is pretty handy when you're looking for scholarships. On the site, you can filter and search. Generally, field of study is pretty handy. If you search STEM, you're going to find quite a few awards. But more general tips, more site agnostic. Getting motivated. Finding a scholarship is like finding a part-time job. If you've ever stocked a shelf or sold a shoe, you know that it can be tricky to get in on the ground floor, and you don't necessarily get the first part-time job that you apply for, right? So staying motivated and investing the time is pretty important. If you're in the sort of grade 10, 11 basket, your couple hours a week should be dedicated more to building out your resume rather than actually searching for scholarships, because you don't necessarily qualify yet. But still, that notion of keeping consistent time that you're dedicating to, your resume, your volunteer, searching for awards. This is pretty important. It's not a one and done kind of thing, especially since scholarship deadlines happen all throughout the year. Deadline alerts I mentioned, understand the requirements too. You can reach out to admins if you're really not sure. You can find the contact info and just shoot them an email, give them a call. They'll be happy to hear from you and try to answer any questions that you may have. A couple other general tips. Smaller awards, I touched on this. Less competition, right? Many admins are looking for more people. And if TD with $70,000 is sucking up all the oxygen, retail with $1,000 might not be. So think about those smaller awards. $1,000 is still however many hours of working minimum wage job, right? You'd rather be just getting a check. To be prepared, we'll talk a little bit about this too in just a second. And don't give up. Don't be discouraged. That's the real key. So your documents. This is a bit of a time saver. Many awards, certainly the higher tier ones, are going to ask you for your resume, for a personal statement, maybe for a couple references. So,
would you mind?
Documents. Come up with your resume. Have a standard just piece that you can edit. Personal statement, your references as well. Get all this stuff together now while you can, especially if you're in high school, you're in a position where you can make good connections with teachers, coaches, religious figures, to get those references, right? So that when the time comes to apply, you have all this stuff ready to go. And then you can just customize and tweak based on the award. So, you've got a standard personal statement. It's full of flavor. It's got your whole personality in there, 500 words. You love it. Now just tweak it a little bit for a given award and you're good to go, right? Don't feel like you have to write something fresh every time. But don't tell them I told you that. Yeah, otherwise, a couple other housekeeping things. On Scholarship Canada, you're going to find a ton of tips and FAQs, sort of checklists, sample reference letters, that kind of thing. So check that out if you want a little bit of help developing some of these boilerplates. Yeah. On social, you'll find us too. We post about awards all the time, new stuff. It's well curated there too by my colleague, certainly not by me. A quick plug for SchoolFinder, same idea, but this is if you're looking for a school or a program, you can find profiles about them and events and so on. But next steps, this is probably what you really want to know. If you're in grade 11, grade 10, right now you need to work on building your resume. So that's getting those volunteer hours that really matter to you, right? That affect your life, that change you somehow. Demonstrating leadership, right? You don't need to be the student council president. You could start an anime club at your high school. Maybe you could volunteer for your swim team, right? Keeping notes on laps. Yeah, you don't have to be the captain of the ship to still demonstrate leadership, right? Think about how you can take a leadership role in your everyday activities. And then your grades too. You're in a position where you can sharpen your grades, so not a bad idea. But really the leadership, the volunteer, the community engagement bit is key. Once you get to grade 12, now you're looking at applying for awards. Here you really want to focus on your entrance awards, especially if you can find stuff that's renewable. I mentioned that already. Once you get into college, uni, now you're getting involved with clubs and so on. But I think that's beyond our scope right now. So I think that's about it for me. Thank you for listening. Really appreciate it.